Okay, I'd like to call to, we don't have an agenda, but I'd like to call to order the meeting, budget meeting, some updates for our budget, April 16th, 2025. And who wants to start? Mayor McGonigal?
We do have an addition. If we'll turn to our CAO, we have an in-camera portion that will follow under the legislation appropriate to 91D, I believe. A. I was close. I was only 3 out. Legal matters affecting the town. So if you could add that to today's meeting, and we'll move forward. And if I can just start, I think at the last budget meeting, we thought it would be appropriate to take our conversation away and have a look at what was proposed in that meeting and look over to decide if there was any places that we wish to have another look at. And I think one of the points, given that the email came on the parking study, I do have some questions on what that may impact the Public Works budget. So I'll bring those forward when we come to that. I think there are some financial implications on some of the items that were brought forward from the consultant. So just wondering how that can be accommodated if we're moving forward this year.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Gill, did you want to start?
Yes, I can just comment on the changes that were made since the last budget. There's been a reduction in the capital budget as one of the numbers for the CLEC improvements came in much lower, so we've reduced the capital budget by that amount. And the only other changes made to this budget were some rounding, and the collections for other governments has been changed. And that number will change again once the school and police tax rates come in.
Okay, thank you. Let's look at the old one to see. Any questions from council? Yes, Mayor Madonna?
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, to the CFO, with the updated BC assessment roll numbers, has that impacted the tax rates going forward?
You mean the higher assessments?
Yes, they've been finalized and sent forward to all municipalities to accommodate the tax rates within different classes. That's been accommodated in this, has it?
Yes, we got those updates early at the end of March, so they were already in for when we had our budget discussion. So that those numbers haven't, the assessments have not changed.
And the only reason I'm asking that is the impact of the regional district portion that we attend to and how that has impacted those requisitions within those functions. That's the only reason.
I can comment that the CBRD increase was about $240,000.
The major portion of that was solid waste, transit, and regional recreation.
Sorry, any other questions from council?
So, Madam Chair, perhaps we could go through
Sure.
the sewer and water, because I don't think there's any changes that were proposed on those. If we can just get that out of the way to begin with, we'll be one step closer.
Okay. We go through that.
Sure, that is the 2-page handout you have there. The first page shows the financial plan for the years 2025 through 2029. 2025 is the year that those are the numbers that we're budgeting. The 26 through 29 numbers are preliminary only, estimates to be finalized before they actually come into effect. You can see capital in 2025 is 1.825 in the sewer fund, and if you flip to the next page, you can see what that 1.8 million is made up of. The large portion being The sewer treatment plant upgrades at 1.5, and that is covered 73.3% by a grant. And the water utility fund is shown below. So these, both the sewer and the water funds show the increased parcel tax revenues. And the capital for the water fund is much lower. There's only 435,000 shown on the next page there. Most of it water design and water upgrades. And the only the only new item that we've never had before is a contribution to the Lake Cowichan First Nations water reservoir for $731,000.
Any questions on that one? Yes, Mayor McGonigal.
Sorry to hog the mic. Through you, Madam Chair, to our Superintendent of Public Works. Water main upgrades for this year, $210,000. Is that accommodating McDonald Road upgrades that are currently taking place?
Sorry, that was for the water line, the question?
Water main upgrades?
Yeah, that's including McDonald, yes.
Is there more projects that are accommodated in that budget, or is that the sole
That's
water?
the sole one for this year. We've got some design work we're going to do. That's the main water line coming from the reservoir into town. We'll be getting a design done on that, but that's a separate budget. And the rest of the budget, we try to keep a little bit in there just in case we have an emergency, so we have some money to do some major repairs if we have to.
That would be accommodated in an operational, would it not?
If it's a major one, it wouldn't be. Like
Okay.
if it was something that seriously went
So you're
wrong.
looking at a replacement, perhaps?
If we had to do a replacement.
Thank you.
Just regarding the capital budget for the sewer treatment plant upgrades, how much of the grant have we utilized, rough number, to date?
To December 31st, 109 was approximately 194 to 195,000. And that's 73% of the 0.3% of the expenses.
Anything else? Councillor Vomaka, did you have anything? Mayor?
Sorry, Superintendent, I'm going to go to you again. Within that grant application, was the desludging of the cells allowed within that grant? Or does that come out of our budget?
That's allowed in the grant money, yes, because that's part of the upgrades. We have to clean them out in order to get them working properly.
And the final numbers of that project have not been allocated to the
They
grant
have not
yet?
yet. There's
Pardon?
just, I haven't received all the numbers yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have an update on what's remaining in that grant once that project is finished?
The project is complete. I just haven't got all the numbers because some of the items were hourly work, etc. So I don't have everything in hand yet.
And that'll show in the 2025 year end when that is finished, I'm sure. Thank you.
Councillor Sandhu?
Thank you. This is just to the Public Works Superintendent. So with the 5-year plan for the water main upgrades and looking at the paving budget for the next 5 years, is it kind of in line with what the possible cost will be for a particular area for water main upgrades and then having to pave? Like, is that kind of why there's?
I'm not quite following the question, but water mains, we can't do a lot more water mains until we get some grant money. And the next one slated, the design's done, is for the 100 houses. And we're trying to find some grant money to do those water lines. And again, a lot of those roads, once the water line is done, they're going to have to be paved. They're in bad shape.
Just to follow up, so with the provincial government's budget this year, they basically aren't offering any capital funds, grants for municipalities and that. So do we look to this as it being we're just going to apply federally also, or is it just provincially that we've applied these grants for?
It would be either, wherever we can find it. The different grants come out, and as we come across them, we try to apply for.
Anyone else? What's the next thing we have?
Oh, I see.
Lots of paperwork. Everything on the first page, is there anything on the first page that you want to go over? It looks fairly similar to the last one we got. I'm trying to compare them. Well, I just stuck it at the back there. Yeah. So how about the second page, statement of expenditures, the second 2 pages? Any changes on those 2 pages? Well, page 1 and page 2, like the second one's in.
On page 1, which shows the revenues, I've changed the collections for other governments, and I think the taxes changed by $6, just rounding. The main change was on the capital on page 2, which was reduced from what it was originally. So Dalton got a better number on the septic upgrades that he was doing, so those capital costs were reduced. Other than that, there's been no changes.
Okay. Is everybody good with those 2 pages? So page 1 of the other one, statement of expenditures, starting with general government services.
Yes, I can address that. These numbers tie into the expenses that you were seeing on the statement of expenditure, page 2. And we're showing the change, which is the difference between the 24 and the 2025 budget. So you can see that in general government, the budget was increased by $336,000. The fire department was $55,700. Bylaw enforcement and other was increased by $23,000. Public Works Administration by $21,000. There was no change in the road maintenance. Garbage collection was increased by $67,000. Public health, there's no change. Planning, there's large increases here, but keep in mind that the half is a grant, and the development approval process increase is also grant covered. And same thing under other functions, the CRI 2024 Fire Smart project is covered by grant. The Visitor Information Center opened earlier this year, so we have an extra $6,000 budget there. Cowichan Lake Education Center has a $16,000 increase, but there's also increases in revenue. So these are the operational expenses, and the total budget increases are $816,900, almost $817,000, of which $325,000 are covered by grants. So there is an increase of almost $492,000 in the budget in the operating fund, in the general fund for operating expenses.
Okay. Any questions? Mayor McGonigal. Let's call you MM.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to the Director of Finance. The Growing Communities Fund was afforded to us for certain projects. Has that been totally expended? Is my first question. And if not, any surplus from that fund has specific requirements it can be utilized for. Where would that show up in our budget package?
So the growing community funds, because they came without conditions, they were taken into revenue, so they're sitting in surplus, which is why we're showing a transfer from surplus of $1.1 million. That this is a deficit budget, and in those grants, there's under $1 million left of those, but $750,000 of that is being allocated towards the Public Works building, and the repairs on the truck shed. And the rest of the money's also been allocated to other capital projects, so.
So although we didn't expend them in the year they were provided, they are accommodating some capital projects this year that we are moving forward.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? You got any questions, Counselor? And back to that last page. So the capital budget on the last two pages, you said there was a reduction?
Yes, under CLEC, the septic improvements, which were originally 30,000, are now 5,000. So we reduced the capital budget by 25,000.
Did you have a question?
Why the reduction? Was it being put on hold or
No, because the anticipated repair was less.
was less? Okay. So it's still going ahead.
Yeah. That's the only change on that page? No. Go ahead.
Just through the Public Works Superintendent, so under Public Works, there's a pickup truck purchase for 80,000. Will that change with the tariffs, whatnot?
No, we were able to secure the truck before any tariffs changed.
Under budget.
Under budget. Under budget. I did notice today there was an ad for some vehicle on TV, and it did say pre-tariff prices. So I think they're all doing that right now if they can. How about the last page? Have we got anything on the last page that? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And given that that vehicle purchase was under budget, my question is going to go towards the email on the parking study and some of the financial implications that may come forward from that. I'm not sure if we have allocated funds for infrastructure that may be needed within that plan. I know we haven't finalized it yet, but there could be some financial implications within that report. How could that be accommodated in the current budget? Is my first question. And the underspent will just be returned to the equipment reserve, is that correct?
Yes, we will only transfer from the equipment reserve that which we've spent.
So on the question of any implementation within the parking study, do we have funds sufficient to accommodate some of those needs?
Thank you for the question. Superintendent and myself have been looking at the parking study, and what we're thinking, given the timeline for purchase of any equipment should council proceed, and the notification period for public communications as well as installation of signage, et cetera, we're likely going to wait until the fall to actually purchase the equipment with an implementation of early next year. And there's $60,000 in the budget right now. Perhaps Mr. Sindhu can add to that.
Yeah, so just adding to that, we've been communicating with the consultant, and they're going to try to do a presentation to mayor and council in May. They're booked up right now for several weeks. So mid-May, late May, they're going to come and do a final presentation. So you guys can say yay or nay or whatever, how we want to proceed. And they'll have a final report and an executive summary that just breaks it down. Instead of 65 pages or whatever it is, it'll give you 4 or 5 pages to review. And the fund, we're getting late. I've talked to the different suppliers for equipment, it's probably 6-8 weeks to get equipment and then install it and sign, so.
My only concern with that is with the busy season coming and us discussing it post summer, how are we going to accommodate some of the problems that may arise within the various parking locations that are always a problem? Would we be looking at increased bylaw enforcement? Would we looking at other avenues to appease some of the congestion that we see when major concert events or other things happen within the local area?
I think some of the congestion in Saywell Park, we can deal with some signage. Within the report, there's a couple of items we can implement right away this year. I think that'll solve some of the problems, and some of it is no buses in Saywell Park, and their loading will be on Point Ideal Road. I think that'll help some. We can look at some more enforcement possibly throughout the areas.
And I know it's a timing issue, but it would have been nice to have this at the beginning of the year to implement it in the budget discussions, and no fault of anyone's, but everyone's busy. The consultants were busy, and there was a transition in our leadership, so we'll have to just move forward, and I'll answer all the emails, I guess.
We will.
Just have a question.
Councillor Bomaka?
So if there's $60,000 in the budget and we don't get too much done this year, will that 60,000 roll into the budget for next year?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's not just going to go into reserve and start over? Okay, thank you.
Well, we're going to hope that you guys carry it forward so we can start moving at it early next year so we don't run into this issue.
Okay, Councillor Sandu.
I was just going to say that I attempted to look at the study, but truthfully, the language is just, yeah. So I'll wait for the 4 to 5 page document. But will staff, along with the 4 to 5 page document, redacted document, will they present recommendations to us, like some ones that you could implement this year? So.
Yeah, yes, we will.
Okay. Anything else? You read it all? The whole thing? Okay.
Could you give me a summary?
Synopsis?
Please.
We're going to have a good, okay, never mind. Anything else, Mayor M&M? Okay, I think I've got notes coming up. Okay. Did we want to take questions from the floor now, or do you want to? Okay, I'll leave you a minute to have a look through.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So interest on investments. We've seen major increases on budget forecasts in the past, but given some of the angst with our 11th province neighbor to the south, would there be any anticipation that that may be a little high in anticipating that amount? I've been watching my own RSP, and I've seen fluctuations that are considerable. I know our investments are a little more secure than mine, but just a thought on that.
I think the amount budgeted is reasonable. I guess we'll still see what happens. We do have a lot of money that we're holding unspent, so that's kind of nice.
Madam Chair, that's all I have.
That's it. Councillor Sandhu, did you have anything else? Councillor Bomaka, you're done? Okay.
And unfortunately, Councillor Frisbee could not join us today. He had work commitments, but I did reach out to him and ask if there was anything within the proposed budget that concerned him. He was fine with this going forward after our discussion today. So at least we know that he doesn't have any major concerns with what has been presented to us. I want to thank staff for all the work they have done and for accommodating us for this late meeting. I just thought it prudent that we had a second chance just to look at and clarify some of the questions, especially with the late email coming on the parking study that could have impacted this budget had we decided to go forward. And it would have been a significant increase in the percentage, given that 1% of taxation is only $26,000 in the town of Lake Cowichan. I broached that at the mayor's, chairs, and chiefs luncheon at AVICC, and it was a pause of gasp when they thought that 1% was only 26,000. And then you consider on the breakdown of our tax rates, 87% of that is residential. So any portion that we do increase impacts residential taxation more than the other classes that we have. So staff, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. All senior levels have come together throughout the year in their pre-budget meetings. I did partake in a couple, but I appreciate all the work that was put into this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did we have questions from the floor?
Is there going to be a public meeting before the confirmation of the parking and traffic control here? Because previously, the previous CEO and someone else put together that desire of what was going to happen without any consultation, and the public got a little bit upset about it. I think there was something like 30 of us here. Is any of that being taken into account, or are we just going ahead with it?
Well, we
have costs and all that,
Yeah.
which wasn't considered last time.
We are having a public meeting on May 5th at 6:30 at the hall, and we won't have had a decision on that by then. So bring that up, and we'll see if we have anything new on that at that time.
There was a little bit of anger from people who doubted the authenticity and the
Yeah, well,
of the whole thing.
yeah.
It was pointed in the wrong direction, and people picked that up and were a little bit upset.
Yeah, so come to that meeting, May 5th, 6:30, Upper Centennial Hall. That's only 2 weeks away or so, 3, 2. And you can bring that up, and there can be more discussion at that time, but we will not have passed anything by that time.
And we will certainly,
Should be mentioned in the agenda for the meeting, or will people just have to?
actually, if the consultants for the parking study are coming in May, that would be an opportunity for you to come and ask questions at that time. So they will be presenting to us probably in the May council meeting. And then at that time, they will bring that ideas within their consultation. They did considerable consultation with the Uptown corridor, which was what the focus of this study was to be. And then moving forward, we can look at other areas within the town that may have considerable impacts in the summer months. But that would also be a time to have some input there as well.
Right. And we don't usually do an agenda for the town hall meetings. It's sort of, we have a few little items we want to discuss, and then we let you bring up anything you want. Yeah, sure. There's no agenda. We just, when you're there. Yeah, there's no agenda at that meeting.
We'll add it as a topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, appreciate that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Yes, Rita? No, it's the one over here, over by the fire hall. Yes, they have a lot of work to do there. The buildings are old. We haven't got permission yet. We're still fighting it, but we haven't got permission. We want to.
Just a matter of interest, are you going to just gut the building and redo it, not to
Jazz will be able to tell you more.
So we're doing two different things there. We're going to build a brand-new building for office space and storage space, and then we're going to reno the existing one where we have offices and lunchroom, and that will be lunchrooms and one office there. So that'll get renoed too. So we have adequate space. A little bit of both.
And the majority of that amount was rolled forward from last year. I hope I'm correct in saying that. I'm getting nods, so
We've been talking about.
I guess I remember correctly.
Was there anything else?
So can we do some quick math? What is 9.9% in a financial impact at 26,000 per 1%? Quickly.
9 times 26?
Just a little less than 10.
Just below $260,000.
What is,
And in that, we've included considerable capital projects. We've looked at increasing capacity within Public Works in the budget, looking at consultants for chasing some of those grants that we may need in the future. So although it seems like a significant amount when you say 9.9%, when you break it down on a $585,000 house, which is the average price for the town of Lake Cowichan, it doesn't have the same effect as 9.9%. And that's one of the reasons that the regional district has moved away from percentage increases, considering that each area doesn't participate in all functions. So they have gone to an increase per 100,000 on the average house within the areas of those that are impacted. And I'm hoping that that will be the avenue that we choose to do, not 9.9%, but what the impact will be per 100,000 on the average house of the town of Lake Cowichan in the tax release. Thank you. Yes. So the average house is $585,000 according to BC assessment in the town of Lake Cowichan. So the average per 100,000 would be 9.9%.
and I think we figured out it was $13 per 100,000, and it's just on our taxes, not on the other part that's on that bill.
And when you look through the budget, I'm sorry to carry on, but there are some within that budget that we have no control over. So perhaps the police levy, the library, and school taxes. So there are some that are beyond the scope of our control, which do impact the total tax increase within the community.
Anything else? Are we done?
Next steps to council for first three readings on Tuesday.
Next week? Okay, that's okay. All right, is that all now? We're done for this, and then we go into in-camera?
Move that the budget discussion be closed.
I move that the budget discussion, oh, what happened? Oh, be closed. A seconder? All in favor? Okay. This thing weighs 20 pounds already. Thank you for coming. Encourage people to come to that May 5th